Right. So we would have done the display screen equipment risk assessment to be, I think, the last um, thing we suggested, and we did make mention of a guidance L23 that you should probably download if you get some time, right? So really and truly, we had to take it off from actually manual handling today, right? So I'm just trying to get that slide back. And still admitting persons behind the scene, right? So manual handling today, and I wanted, like I said, is an hour session. These sessions for me go very, very fast, right? Especially when we have some new work to come today. So my plan would have been, all of this going in this slide here would have been stuff from last week, right? So this is where we ended it last week here. Things to consider in a display screen equipment risk assessment. And today should start off from right where we see manual handling, right? So if you missed this, I'm not too sure how to fix it with Zoom if the internet was given trouble. Or I'm not sure what it was, if it was a Zoom app or whatever it was, right? Because the internet seemed to be okay. It's just that sometimes the apps take a bit, right? And it seemed to only happen with this class. I'm not too sure why, because we just had one, and then we have one after this one, and those recordings don't ever see, right? Like in here, I feel the last right, for that's like a view so you have to see so very fresh and then when you from here, at least that will be what I'd say is but it's supposed to be the system, right? So just this is like some there's not regulation and it looks like the value of those is that when you see to the guidance, they also bold face there's like a few student make it up to the so I think it's explain find that we see is lifting, lowering, pushing the hands they don't use up the right this movement hands the carrier some because on this we have 4 trees, right? Coming out and you have trees. You have people last week we covered last week. How the tree must the tree sometimes it's here. You know that's what I have in front of me. This is what I'm right? This is what is on the and what is give this to give right and give you can do that. The improved list from the right? What you call prolapse disc or slip disc, right? All of this second point is leading to that point anyway, right? So prolapse disc. Then you have a lot of this. It's still the same as the cert for those who did the certificate level with us. Or the cert level with anybody anyway. I mean, that is the approved list of injuries, strains and sprains, hernia, lacerations, cuts, abrasions, bruising, crushing of bones, right? So that's what they expect to see if they would ask you for. I mean, because you know, at this level, injuries questions don't go for much marks, maybe 2 marks for the most. So, you know, I really do expect all of that to come. That is more like a certificate sort of questions anyway, right? Some causes of manual handling, failing to use a proper lifting technique, moving loads which are too heavy, failing to grip the load in a safe manner, not wearing approved protective equipment, right? We went through some of this last week. No too much of biology involved in it. If you, this slide is not comprehensive though. I think some of the bones are actually missing here. You can check it in your book, you'll come up with 33, right? The latter didn't really give you the total. But this is what I would have said most people want according to the manual handling operation already. The first thing on this side, but the first thing is manual, and the time, so we manual. And then I'll use my answer a second. There is a sense on this, right? You know, I like teaching you guys interesting and guess I may have crossed 5 months before I was born that on I should see I really went because so it's 2 questions. But was asking all my patients then, you know, no questions for 5. And on those who take notes, there's and somebody there, right? If I could, I would have just liked to do this on this slide, right? What I mean, like, instead of going through all the slides with you and reading it out, right? I would have just done an explanation, but I suppose I could use this slide because this slide seems to have some space on it, right? You know, all of that. I think those of us who know about what this is all about, I think you have an idea what these these slides here, then these slides are the movement back and forth there. On these slides, they just go on to say, well, then, well, what are the task factors you have to consider, right? When they say, the four things to consider is style, right? And what do they mean by task, right? So I wonder if I could, it will be slow for me to try to write with this marker, right? But I could say two and probably say two more and see if you could probably give me one. That'll probably take a little long, right? But I think you get the idea that when I try to create it, that when they say task, what do you consider about the task, right? So I could give you two and then I'll try to write two because that just takes some time, and then I'll try to just say two and you can probably just add two more to your list, right? So when they say task, what they mean is that you have to consider if the task does involve what I had said before. The task involves like lifting, right? So this is what you have to consider. Does the task involve lifting? Does the task involve lowering? All of this is what you call task factors. And I'll put a comma there, a comma, sorry. You have to consider if it's pulling, and again, if it's pushing, right? So if it's like pushing, you know, maybe a trolley or whatever have you, right? So you can put this here. This is what they mean by task factors. So remember the diploma level, if you're writing this up, what do you consider about a manual handling risk assessment? You just can't write the word task, you write a sentence. So you have to say what this does involve. The task involve lifting, lowering, pushing, pulling, and the list goes on. You can add in some more, just show two more. In fact, it have like 10 more, right? It involves things like carrying distances. That is a task factor, right? Carrying distance. You also have things like task factors would include things like the duration of the task, the frequency of the task. So that's two good ones, duration and frequency. Does the task involve any work rest cycles, right? So there's a lot of stuff you consider about the task. The point they're trying to create is that when they say duration, then this is what you have to say. Like if the work goes on for 12 hours then, right? The risk then would be increased because it's a longer type of operation anyway, right? So that's what you have to say in your sentence based on how frequent the task is, based on how long the task is, the risk will increase, right? Let's go to the other one. So just see if you have any questions. I remember for those of us, you may have an idea of that by doing that at the certificate level, but that is what you'll have to say, right? That the task involves those things anyway. So for the load, anybody remember this one? Like what do you consider about the load? This is an easy one. You consider, for example, the
heavy.
Okay, so the weight of the load. You consider the weight of the load, right? And I say this to tell you not because it's something I know, because I've seen a lot of questions on this: the weight of the load, the size of the load, the shape of the load, and it could go on and on, right? So I'll just try to fit in two, and I'll show the rest, right? So the weight of the load, the size of the load. The shape of the load, if it's like round, right? Like a round piece of pipe could actually roll and increase the risk of like crushing or whatever have you, as compared to maybe something that's in a crate or a container or a pallet, right? So the shape of the load, you want to consider here things also like what is the center of gravity of the load, the COG, center of gravity of the load. You may think of that, if you don't know what that's all about, you may think of that as if you have components in a box and you would I guess pick up the box. If the components roll, it would offset the center of gravity, and the position in which you had held the box, then it could cause the box to become heavier on the other side, right? So the center of gravity, you talk about even if the load is sharp, if it have pointed edges, all of those things would actually affect your grip on the load, right? So if it's sharp, if it's hot or cold, I wouldn't write those or say it, so you can just kind of list it anyway. The environment, but this one is easy. I mean, this could just talk about the outside environment in terms of hot and cold. It could also talk about things like lighting. What is the lighting, Diane?
Yes.
Okay, so lighten, you talk about it even like the work flow condition, like if it have if it's slippery, if it's, I guess, dry with dust, if you have space constraint, there's a lot of more stuff for the environment. So if you have like a tight corridor, a steep step that you had to go up with this load, right? All of those things would be environmental factors anyway. So light or lack thereof or dark, right? All of those are environmental factors. If you have any raised edges, that's a good one. If you didn't know that one, a raised edge, right? So you are walking with this load, but then you have to go, I guess, maybe up flight of stairs, and then just before that is a raised edge, right? So all of those are environmental factors. And again, what you would say is that is based on these then that the risk is going to be increased. Keep in mind, if I can just circle something in that, what you're doing is still a good old-fashioned risk assessment. Keep in mind that, right, that these things is what is going to increase the risk. If the duration is long then, right, the likelihood, you have to come back to this. This is what NEBOSH's comment on and say students don't do, right? If you wonder, well, you know, well, what's hard in that? I mean, what's hard in talking about tile and stuff, right? Whenever they say like what could increase the risk, you have to tie it back to likelihood and consequences. You can see based on the fact somebody is lifting and lower and like lowering a weight on a frequent basis, right? You can probably say, you know, like 50 times, not 50 times, but I guess we bring it down to a second, right? Like in 1 minute, they would move up, sorry, they lift and lower a box 60 times. So that's just 1 minute. So they can just have 1 minute to pick up a box and to put it back maybe on a shelf or whatever. So because the likelihood there would be increased, right? And the duration of a task maybe like 12 hours, that could increase then the consequences on the person. So you have to kind of keep coming back to know that the time factors is not something different to a risk assessment, but it is a risk assessment. So then you often have to tie these things here with likelihood and consequences. For example, the last one, if the lighting was poor and there was a raised edge, it may be more likely that someone could slip and fall, you know, and cause damage to themselves anyway, right? So you think you get that. Anyway, this is a recorded. Please remember that. I guess at this level that you have to know that this thing ties back to a risk assessment. Certificate students can normally just say TILE, task, load, environment, and individual, and they can get a mark for that. But with the diploma, you still have to mention it is a risk assessment and then tie it back to a risk assessment, right? Last one is the easiest one. The individual is the person that's doing the load, so you consider a lot of stuff about that person. Anybody could give me 2 answers on the individual? Two answers for individual. Like what about the individual when you consider doing a risk assessment? Would you consider the person's health?
Yeah, as well as
right. So a manual handling risk assessment, you want to consider the person's health. There's a lot of answers for this. If you don't know it, I'll have to say it then, right? But you consider say?
Age as well as physical capability.
Say again?
Age,
right.
Age.
Right, age, the person's age, very good. So the person's age.
Physical.
The person's physical fitness, yeah. So there's a lot of
disability,
right?
like vulnerable person with disability.
Good, right? So the person fitness is what they're supposed to be fitness. So yes, very good there. The person, if they have a disability, remember there is laws in Trinidad and Tobago and in the UK. You have the Equality Act in the UK, 2010. That makes it, you know, the law that you cannot discriminate against anybody that is differently abled, right? So, you know, what the company will have to do is that they will have to find ways to get that person to get the job done in a safe way, right? I mean, that is a lot more stress for the companies though, but the law says you cannot discriminate, right? So there's a lot more to it. That's 4 good ones. I would have to leave that there because I know that some of y'all know it already, right? But I want to end this little discussion on here, this little piece here. Now remember, with the 1 hour I have, I cannot do all the questions, right? And again, like I said today, I've planned it to be the harder, not the harder, I wouldn't say harder, these things I never had, but it's really the new piece then that the certificate students would have not known. But I say not to tell you that there's a lot of questions on this here, and if you all could find them, I'll say what I said before. I came across like maybe 5 questions like these before I came across one question that tests, you know, like the new piece for today anyway, right? And there was one that I saw and I wanted to pull it out, but I didn't because of it wouldn't fit in the time. So I guess all I'll do is mention it. I'll mention it and I'll mention them. When I say them, because what I realize is that most of the questions that come at the diploma level on tile, they give you like a case study, right? They give you like some background setting then, and then they ask you to do the manual handling risk assessment on that, right? So one of the ones that is in my head that stuck with me was one where they had said farmers were going to share sheep. I don't know if anybody know that passive
Yes,
question.
I think was
Right?
moving the live animal.
Yeah, they were going to move live animals, right? And which was sheep. Again, this is very common in the UK when I was across there. You know, just I mean, in all respect and anyway, right? Just to say this way that one of the things that I noticed was that like they were big on farming then, right? Just out of London anyway. The farms, right? You would see horses and you would see sheep. And if you ever look at any old, I guess, English pitié, I know some of us may remember some of these older shows that were on TV in Trinidad. Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean is actually from the UK. So if you have a look at Mr. Bean, you see somebody background, right? If you remember, there's a comedy long time called Allo Allo. Allo Allo is actually the UK as well. But the point I'm trying to say was that that was something that stood out to me. That I saw sheep and I saw horses, and you know, when I say horses, these animals had on they had on like a jersey, right? The horses had on like a jersey. I think it was December month anyway, so I think that may have been a way of keeping them, I guess, out of the winter. I guess keeping them warm. But the point I'm trying to say is that this is something common in the UK, then I don't think it's common in Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, it may be more common in Tobago because Tobago do have a lot of persons that take care of animals like the goats and stuff anyway, right? But the point of the question was that you were going to handle sheep and they were going to share the sheep and they wanted you to do a manual handling risk assessment. Now, I remembered students doing the question. And of course, I know some of them passed, a lot, I mean, they're not with us anymore. But I remember one student, and I know who I'm talking about. I remember one student who did this question and he felt so confident. And at the end of it, he didn't pass. And then when I had asked him to do over the question, a long story short, right? The point I'm trying to say is what was that when they give you a scenario, you have to tie into the scenario then. You have to go back to the scenario. In other words, then, if they were talking about sheep, you have to talk about lifting and lowering the sheep, right? You can't just write the question about the things to consider is lifting and lowering, right? And I think that is something that the examiners commented on. Like the load, right? If it was a sheep, then you have to say different sheep would have different sizes and different weights, right? They would have the same shape anyway, though. So shape would not have been a point there for sheep, right? And I think Diana said it correctly that they consider that if the animal was alive or live, in fact, the animal may have been given, I guess, a bit of trouble then. So then the weight may not have been consistent, right? The animal, you may hold it in one way, but then as in sharing the sheep, it may just get up then and decide to act up, right? So the weight will shift based on how the animal behaves anyway. So if you have some time, I spent too much time on that here, but I just showed you that that was a section B question. Tested nothing else but TILE, but the good thing was that they created a scenario where you had to apply the task factors then, not the task factors, the tile factors to that scenario, right? Folks, I want to run away from that. So maybe the following week, because today was really carded to be the hardest, not the hardest, but the newest day anyway, right? So hopefully maybe next week we can probably come and look at a question on that. Again, at the same time, you can look at it and send me those questions anyway, right? But I'm moving on, right? And I'm moving on with the idea that think it not strange that you could get a tile question again. Just know that it may be an applied question, meaning that you have to apply the knowledge of tile to the background or to the case that they would be giving you. So I did all of this on the slide there about the individual and stuff, right? So that's why I did it there, because I didn't want to go through this and do it on the slide here. So most people know this. So I won't go through this. This is like the ABCs of manual handling. You can read this up on your own. Mentioning guidance here and stuff, right? So this is the one I want to get into now. It's just about half an hour into it. So the use of assessment tools, right? I will just stick to this slide, right? So there is again, like when they say tools, these are like charts, or for those who did this session on noise, which I know was all of you all anyway here, this session on noise and vibration, where the HSC had designed the noise calculator, right? And then we also saw things like the ready record. This lesson is like a spreadsheet, right? That's the data on and click enter calculation for you. So those who so is only limited to these operations. If I could group them here: lifting, lowering, carrying, and team handling, right? So I'll just read out this slide for you there. So uses a flow chart, assessment guide, and a score sheet, right? So again, just to pinpoint it that there is a chart then for lifting and lowering. There would be separate charts for carrying and separate charts for team handling, and then you record it on a score sheet. That's why I said it's about 3 charts and 1 sheet to fill out, right? It is not suitable for pushing and pulling operations. And I'll show you it in a bit now, right? So to use the tool, the task needs to be observed in detail. And then what these charts have on them, you'll see the charts have a color code with them, kind of like the one for vibration. Vibration was similar to that. You have 4 colors on most of them. In fact, I may want to take that back, as some of them have 3 color code, right? But the most it could be is 4 colors. And the colors would be green, amber, red, and purple, right? And those color codes then have a score attached to them, right? When you look at them, you'll see. So if something is green, I think the score is 0, meaning that there is no risk, right? Purple is kind of like a risk assessment. Remember, that's the heading. It's a manual handling risk assessment, right? So if it's green, 10 to 1 is going to be, the score is going to be 0. When they say record, that's what they're talking about. If you look at an operation and on the chart it turned out to be green, when you record it on the score sheet, you add up all the scores there, so it'll be 0 plus something. If it is purple, I think it's normally around 6 to 10. I'm just going to put 10 here. And then you add up this. This is the idea that it is like a normal risk assessment. At the end of the day, the higher the number you get, the more risky the operation is. Then it follows the same principle as a risk assessment, right? See if you get the basics of it there, and then I'll show you part of it now, right? So some main points: the MAC tool is limited to lifting, lowering, carrying, team handling. It's about 3 charts that have subcharts, but we'll get to that in a bit. And then you just correspond an activity that you are seeing to a picture on the chart, and based on the picture, they will fall within different color codes, and the color codes carry a number with them, right? Most color codes can go up to purple. Most of them do. It may be an equal amount, that some of them actually go up to exactly red, meaning the chart doesn't have a purple, right? So let's take a look. I'm going to clear that right there, and let's get this to go. So I did send a guidance for you yesterday The only thing that I realized was that that guidance had some stuff missing on it. So you may want to go and download the full guidance. I think the version that I gave Janet on the computer I was using yesterday, which was not the same computer. As it downloaded, it had some stuff missing on it, right? So what you can probably do is, I'm just trying to get this slide to move, right? Is to just put that guidance back into Google, INTG 383, and try to download another version of it, right? They have some stuff I realized was actually missing on that one, and I actually got it that easy. I actually got it by just putting IMDG 383, but not to show how the version I had yesterday. But I had another computer yesterday at the office, right? That version seemed, as it downloaded, certain lines were kind of boxed out of it anyway. Right, let me tell you what I'm looking at here. So this line here, before I get to the graph, right? These are the headings of the graphs, right? I don't know which is better, but this is the chart that you will have. In looking at the charts, and we are looking at, as I mentioned before, the mark tool would only assess three categories: lifting and lowering, carrying, and the last one was team handling. So what we're saying is that there would have been three charts, right? This would have been team handling here. Let's say you are just looking at it for lifting and lowering. What I'm trying to say is that these headings here are the headings under each of these here. So there'll be subcharts as I was talking about. There'll be subcategories then under this category of lifting and lowering. The same as for this. All of these I have covered. These are the subtopics and the criteria that they will consider is that they'll consider what is the load weight. They'll consider what is the frequency of the lift. And that's how you get it if it's green or red or purple. They'll consider what is the hand distance from the lower back. They'll consider the vertical lift region, the trunk twisting, sideways bending. These heading here, these all fit within each of the categories. So even though the category may change, these would be what you'll be getting the numbers for them, right? Postural constraints, grip on the load, floor surface, other environmental factors. So these fit within each of these here, right? So the reason for stressing that is because that came as the question, like one of the passive questions. They asked like what does the Mark II show? But it doesn't matter if they tell you the categories carrying, or the categories lifting and lowering, or the categories team handling. They all consider this. They'll all give you a number for this then to break it down. I guess because I have space down here, if it was load, the graph that is showing you, right? As we look at this first, you'll be able to understand the graph, right? So for load, there'll be a figure for green, there'll be a figure for amber, right? There'll be a figure for red, and there'll be a figure for purple. Green is typically 0, right? Purple is typically 10. Red may be something like 6, right? So just as I have some space on this slide, because when you go to the graph, I wouldn't have any space on that graph anyway, right? What you have to do, in case you're still a bit confused, right? What you have to do, if we could split a line here, what you have to do though, in using these Mark tools, right? What you have to do, you have to observe somebody. You have to observe an operation, right? And they recommend the best way to observe the operation. Trying to draw somebody here. The best way to observe, if I'm going backward, the best way to observe the operation would be to like videotape the person. So all of these are things you have to say, right? So in you observing somebody moving a box, you will have to videotape. So this is like a recording, or take pictures, but they recommend videotaping where you could stop it. And what you will do, this is how you actually do it. This is like a practical then, right? So you videotape somebody, and then you look back at these ready-made charts on the HSC website. And you look and see then like maybe we can take, but this is not team handling, right? I'll use a spacer because I had some spacer, but I guess we can probably take this one here, hand distance from the lower back, right? So you look at this, hand distance from the lower back, and you want to generate a figure for that because remember, there will be a table to record it on. So you're looking at the charts, but you're recording it on a table. So hand distance from the lower back, and if it looks like the person is like, I guess like reaching here a bit, but it's not going to be 10, it's probably going to be 6, right? I just made up this one anyway. But that's what you want to do. You want to put like hand distance from the lower back, right? And when you look at the chart and you realize, okay, the person is just probably reaching, but they're not overreaching, the hand distance from the lower back will be 6. Think you're getting it a bit? The grip on the load, right? I just want to put the grip on the load. This person seems to have a firm grip. So grip on the load, I'll put it as 0, meaning that there was no risk, right? The letters you're trying to kind of match up here is G-A-R-P if it goes up to P, right? So don't let this G confuse you. This G was the grip on the load, kind of this point here. So it looks from the little thing I drew here that the person have a good grip on the load, right? So I'll put the risk then associated with that would be 0. Floor surface, I'll put in an F here. Floor surface, we could assume, let's make an assumption that the floor surface is good to barely good. So we can say that's amber. We can put a 1, or these figures have come from the graph itself, and the other one, other environmental factors. Let's assume the other environmental factors are good, so I'm going to put 0. And then you add this up, and this is how you do a mark risk assessment. So 6 and 1 is 7. The overall risk assessment here will be 7. And again, the higher the number, the higher the risk. The lower the number, the lower the risk. Think you have an idea of that? So you'll have to do some learning here, right? Like you'll have to learn these criterias, right? You can pick the easy ones that you know. I mean, as somebody lifting and lowering, so they must be picking up something, right? So you can say grip on the load. Floor surface is a nice one. Environmental factors, the load and the frequency and stuff. I mean, all of them nice to me, but you know, just a simple one. Vertical lift region, but you know, if I had it, remember this is just a stick man, right? If it was a video, the person may have actually, if I could just superimpose a picture there, the person may have actually, foot went too high, but the person may have actually reached there, the vertical, and in that case, this value here may have actually been a high value, right? Remember, so that's how you actually do it, right? So you actually have to observe, and they recommend pictures in sequence, or they recommend videotaping the operation and then slowing down the video and matching it back now to the figures you have on the chart. So let me finally show you the chart. I wanted, like I said, to explain it to you first, because when you look at the chart, and it's already quarter to 11. When you look at the chart, it's a colorful chart now. They want to put these stick figures on the colorful chart, right? So you think you have an idea of what this is all about? Yeah? Good. And if you wanted to know which chart to use, I suppose that may be, if you want to know what I mean by which chart, like was it a chart for lowering, was it a chart for carrying, was it a chart for team handling? I think the answer will be based on what you are using there and what you have observed, right? Even though this is one person, this second person is meant to be like a superimposed position of the person, right? But if you know it's one person, but then you know it can't be the team handling chart. And if you, like when you look at the person, if you realize the person was not carrying the load, but they were more or less lifting and lowering, and then you go to those charts, right? So the answer to know which charts to focus on will be the task you're looking at. And I think NEBOSH will sell it on, because when you look at the question, they would say the person was lifting, lowering, or the person was carrying, or the person was team handling. I need to clear it though, at least it's on recording. But I think this is good so that you have an idea of what it looks like anyway, right? So I'm gonna clear it, and I'll have to come off this slide because the other one is the guidance, right? I did put it on this share screen. Let me see if it's there, because I had a class just now that may have changed it a bit, right? It's not on the share screen. I just need to remove something there, right? All right, just let me, I'll have to come off. just see something here. Okay, that's not it either. Right. I did actually see the past paper, but it may have been vague to start with the past paper first. All right, I have to just minimize you all a bit. Right, so I couldn't minimize. All right, let's get this back. All right, you let me know when it comes up because I am seeing it here, but I'll have to, you know, to let me know when it comes up on your side. All right, I look at the time there. May not have been enough time to do that past paper. All right, still uploading, and I'm actually seeing it, but all right, let me see if this will come up for you all. All right, you see in this manual handling chart the Mac tool? Yeah? Okay, all right. So, right. So yeah, these are the charts, right? So let me just, hopefully you can see it good anyway. I wanted just to go to the top of it to show you something. So if you notice the heading on the, if you can see the heading anyway, it says INDG 383. So just to pinpoint it for you that to do the MAC assessment, you have to use this chart. This chart then is like the noise calculator, the vibration calculator. You have to use it. This is what they mean by using the MAC tool, right? So it's not that you could dream up these numbers in any other way. You have to be able to use the chart, right? There's a little note here. Now this note, how to complete a MAC assessment. This note was the subject of part of the past paper that may not even get time to show you, right? This disclaimer here, right? They said here, using the MAC tool does not comprise a suitable and sufficient risk assessment. It does not. Right? The pacifier, I'll mention it to you. I don't think we'll be able to get into all of it, but the pacifier asks why. Why using the MAC tool, it doesn't comprise a full risk assessment. And some of the simple answers is that from what you saw today, well, the MAC tool didn't cover the whole manual handling assessment. It just covered 3 categories: lifting, lowering, carrying, and team handling, right? So the disclaimer is that this then is only limited to certain activities. You need to do a full risk assessment, meaning that you need to consider the other things about the task. When certain conditions apply, before you start your MAC assessment, look at the checklist on the score sheet to see if any of them apply to you. The appendix of manual handling, L23, explains this in more detail. I think I mentioned that one to you last week. Let me just take off this thing from here, right? So we mentioned the color codes, which you'll see now. The color codes, you can see it right here as I try to change this marker, right? So the color code, you'll see the green, the amber, the red, and the purple. And again, what I'm trying to say that these have numbers with them, right? I'll try to draw back a stick man here if you're not getting the full version of it, right? So you look at your charts and you'll see now that there are 3 types of charts. See if you're seeing this. There is a chart then for lifting operation. Let me just go down. I want to go down and show it and I'll come back up, right? So there are 3 grouping of charts. There's a grouping of charts. I want to say grouping because for each of the category we mentioned before, there will be a chart. Let's stop if I'm going too fast, right? For each of the categories, the criteria, then there'll be a chart for the load weight, there'll be a chart for the grip on the load, there'll be a chart for the working environment, there'll be a chart for the distance of the trunk, right? So that's what you're seeing. And then when you finish off all of those charts, you come up to the next category, which will be carrying. And then you see the same categories again, sorry, the same criteria again. Load weight, frequency, grip on the load. When you finish that, you come across another grouping again, which will be team handling, right? So you're not using all the categories at the same time. You're just using what pertains to your task. If you observe somebody manually handled by lifting, lowering, then you're just using the first sets of charts. One summary of the criteria inside of this one grouping: the load weight, hand distance from the lower back, and as I go down, I don't want to go down too much, right? You'll see the different criteria, right? Vertical lift zone, grip on the load, floor surface, environmental factors. And then when that is finished, you'll see they come up to the other grouping, which will be carrying. And then you start over the whole criteria again. When you finish carrying, there'll be a chart, right? There'll be a chart for team handling, right, at the end of it. So like I said, you wouldn't be using all the charts, at least hopefully not, based on the task that somebody is doing. You can simply just be using one set of the charts, right? So let me go back up to the first one and let's try to look at something in that chart, right? Right, so yeah, not the easiest of stuff to maneuver, right? Okay, so with this one, I suppose if you're looking at this, this is, like I said, you have to observe someone. If I can draw back my stick man, you have to observe someone, you have to videotape somebody, and then based on what that person is doing, you look at the charts. I don't know why this for this come out like that. You look at the charts, and then you kind of say what is what, right? So you want to get what is the load weight. I think the load weight, you say, must be in kilograms, and then you want to get the frequency of the lift, right? So let's assume something like the load weight is 50 kilograms. It's a 50 kilograms piece of pipe or box or whatever, and they are moving that, one lift per day, but they're moving that, let's say, they're moving that, again, it's kind of high anyway, right? But let's say the figure falls here then, right? So you're looking at something like within 9 seconds, right? Your figure falls here based on what you were looking at. The box is about 50 kilograms. Well, then the value for that, then for the load weight, you're gonna have to write down the number 10, right? Almost as what I did before, right? This cursor wouldn't make me move unless if I move the marker. Get the cursor back. So you think you have a fairly good idea, right? Like I said, I'm not too sure if I can give you one of this to do. So again, this is the idea. So you look at somebody, let's look at my stick man there, and then you try to figure out what is the figure. If you notice this one, the color codes only went up to R, but the one before it went up to P. Purple then, green, amber, red, purple. There's just some of them go up to the P, which is the highest number, 10. Some of them stop at red. This is just how the chart is anyway. So we look at my kind of crazy stick figure, maybe fall within this one here, I guess a bit of reaching. So maybe hands far from the lower back. So then this will be, for this category here, which is the hand distance, this will be 6. Think you're getting how to do it? Yeah? Once you understand, move on to something else, because I think once you know one, you know all anyway. This one to the bottom here, vertical lift distance. Vertical lift zone, we may be somewhere here. This person, of course, remember I have drawn a stick figure. This is not really somebody live lifting, right? So you can never tell, but if the person, hands between the knees and elbows, the city figure is green. Hands between the elbow height and head height. Hands at head height or above, the risk could be 3. So let's just assume that if the picture was superimposed as the ones I had before, and the figure you put down there 3, to the end of the day, you add up all of them, and the higher the number you get, the higher the risk. Tell me what you think, because I want to go to a passive, right? I think the only way to do it, I am working, well, if I get time, I did come across a video, but it needs to be edited for me to do what I want to do with it. I would have taken a video of somebody actually lifting an operation and then pause the video and put in these figures in it, or almost like what they're doing here, right? But that's the only way, though, if you want to do it in reality, you have to take a video of somebody and then just work with the chart and then assess it and come up with the risk figures anyway, right? But hopefully I said enough to do that, because I did that at the master's levels, right? NEBOSH do already have you do that at this level. Again, you can never tell, and the reason why I say you can never tell, because I mean, these things need a video, so I don't know how they will give you a video, except that they give you a series of pictures and ask you to figure it out anyway. But they have the no question to be like that anyway. And maybe in the future, again, why I said there maybe in the future, and why I said not as yet too, because you know the certificate has gone to an open book exam, right? The certificate course has gone to an open book exam. You can never tell what's in for diploma students in years to come. If they do give you like videos and case studies and stuff, and students have to do the assessment. But again, those who know me, you know, I often try to get you all to be competent, meaning that at the end of today's class, you should be able to download INTG 383, take a picture of somebody doing a task, and actually do a mock assessment. By the way, I think the piece I forget here, and I didn't really forget, but I didn't show you. It's at the bottom of this guidance. I don't know if you want me to scroll all the way down. The figures, you see me recording it on the side here, but the figures really had to be recorded on the score sheet. There is a sheet for it. It's only a handout. If I could just share, that would be the easiest thing for me to do. If I could just share back the handout. The sheet is on the PowerPoint, right? So if I could just get it here. So just like how you see me writing on vertical height and whatever, there's actually a sheet for that, right? So there's a score sheet. Again, if you didn't see it, you could just download the max score sheet, and you just see that these things are already there, like the load weight, the hand distance of the lower trunk, the vertical lift, the trunk twisting, sideways, bending, postural constraint, and you just put the figures and you add them up in the end. So there's a score sheet for that, which is why they said it's 3 groupings of graphs and 1 score sheet, right? You can download this if like I said, remember when I teach you, I often expect you all to be competent. Like if you go there, you know how to do a manual handling MAC risk assessment, right? 11 o'clock, right? I think, you know, like whenever I say I want to show you the passive, I just end up doing it. Whenever I say I want to show you the passive, I always end up doing it. But I may have exit out there now because I'm not seeing it anymore. When I put on this one, the share screen, I often say there's only show you a limited amount of shares at a time, right? And I don't even know, I think I see it here, right? So you could probably, I wouldn't do it. I make an effort not to do it, but just maybe just to read it, and I'll pick it up next week. And I plan all the answers. I think the cameras stick there a bit, right? But I plan all the answers. I don't know if you can see this. I plan all the calculations, the thing on the side of this. I guess I'm gonna have to leave that for next week. You all are seeing the passive now? No? Okay, that means I have to share it still then. Okay, right, because I am seeing it. That's what I asked, right? So let me see. Okay, so you can take a note of the year. It is one of those repeat years. Just tell me when you're seeing it, because my screen was always on it. Yes? Okay. So the year is 2018, I think. And the question was in section B. So remember, these are the years that they love to repeat from those recent years. Could have been number 7. Right? I would just have to tell her what we covered today, and hopefully I didn't pass it there, right? So number 7. Right, so I'm gonna try to line this up so you see all of it. So I can just probably walk you through it, and we'll kind of cover it next week as well. So Hopefully you can see the size of it is big enough there. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. All right, so it says here the Health and Safety Executive, HSC Manual Handling Assessment Chart, MAC, is a tool that can be used to determine manual handling risk of various types of activities, including lifting operation. So they kind of sell it out there. Remember, if you know what that is going to, that kind of means that, you know, if you were using the charts, which they didn't really put in this question, you had to focus on the lifting charts of them, not the one for carrying, not the one for team handling. The MAP tool assigns numerical scores to a range of risk factors, which we saw from INTG 383. Part A, identify 5 risk factors in the MAP tool that should be considered for a lifting operation carried out by an individual, right? So, like I said, we don't have time to do all of it, but what was the 5 risk factors? The 5 risk factors will be taken from where? From the, anybody know? The 5 risk factors is the is the criteria, right? Things like what is so like the load. It was like the individual criteria within the graphs there. It's like the load, the frequency, the floor surface, the environmental condition, the hand distance, and the lower back. So that's what they want there, right? Which was consistent for all of the categories. So again, just take a little note of it. Next week, we may start back with the same question. Part 2, for each of the risk factors identified in A, describe how the numerical score vary as the lifting operation changes. References to the exact numerical score is not required. However, I think the figures were not hard to remember. They were like numbers from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. So what they want for the second piece, you want to tell them that the scores will go from green, amber, red to purple, and based on if it's safer, it'll be green, like it'll be given a value of 0. And if the risk is higher, it'll be given a higher value like 6. And the highest value, of course, will be purple. And that will be more for load and the frequency. And that will be a value of 10. They didn't really want the exact number, but I didn't see why, because to me the numbers were simple to remember. Is that they're going to be 0 to 10 anyway, right? But that's what they want about how the numbers go. So from green to purple, the numbers go up. Describe how the numerical score vary as the lifting operation changes. Part B, explain why using a MAP tool alone may not result in a suitable and sufficient risk assessment. 5 months, so we covered 1 today. I will leave the rest for next week, right? 1 basically meaning that the MAP tool never really said it was going to do a whole risk assessment. Instead, it was only meant for operations like lifting, lowering, carrying, and team handling. But that's only maybe 2 marks. You know, if anybody we have here who familiar with Unit A, and if you tie that into this phrase here, suitable and sufficient, you get the rest of the other answers. The key to this is something from Unit A in the phrase suitable and sufficient, right? So that piece they may not really be Unit B. It is really more tied into suitable and sufficient. But anyway, part of it is that the MAP tool was designed to do a full risk assessment, right? Part B to this, an internet-based delivery organization operates a large warehouse where employees pick loads weigh between 2 kilograms and 20 kilograms. The employee carry these loads to an area where the items are stacked onto pallets. The organization decides to use the HSC Variable Manual Handling Assessment Chart, VMAC, to assess the manual handling risk. Its employees who work an 8-hour shift. Outline why the VMAC tool is suitable in this scenario. Well, we haven't done it. We didn't get the time. We ran out of time. So I'll leave this for next week. But I'll finish with the question, right? Delivery drivers use pallet trucks to load the stack pallets onto delivery vehicles. Comment to the use of the VMAC tool in this situation. So you can read it up a little bit if you want on the slides, but we didn't get to touch the VMAC today. Remember, from what I said at the very go of the lesson, the MAC tool was about 3 charts and a score sheet, but the VMAC is not that. The VMAC is actually a spreadsheet, like the vibration spreadsheet, right? So it is actually totally different to what we just did here anyway, right? So tell me what you think. I guess this is why I would have wanted to do these topics before, right? Remember, I still feel it's better that you will face this now than face this September month to hear so much new stuff anyway, right? So that's why I chose manual handling now. And by the way, we should be finishing manual handling by the end of July, and then we'll come back to things like radiation and stress and violence and stuff, which I think I said it last week too, that I think those things, especially violence, question, we can very well answer, right? Without being I guess you don't have to learn so much at work anyway. But I wanted to get the new stuff out of the way so that you can have a chance to, I guess, incorporate it, digest it, right? And see if you would be willing to do one of these questions anyway. We have some others next week as well. Granted that we are not finished. This will probably take us about 15 to 20 minutes to finish next week. And then we have some other calculations. You have ruler and REBA as well, type assessments for next week. Any questions from anybody? No? Okay, well, that should be it, right? For today, right? I would try, hopefully this Zoom thing didn't stick up like the last one. Again, the reason why I don't post them right after class is because I have another class. There's actually a class going till 2 o'clock today, right? And then each recording have to be converted. So I'll try to upload these as, I guess, as soon as I could anyway. Hopefully the recording is a good one because these are really some good stuff to look back to and to listen them all over again, including the one for noise and vibration because of the heavy emphasis on the participles with them anyway, right? So if that's the day, I wonder if I have any, I don't think I have any Unit D students online here. Let me just check. I didn't think so. But for anybody, but I don't think that's us anyway. We have 10 students on this morning. I'm not too sure about Keishan, but I guess you could kind of laser me. But for those, we do have over 4 students submitting the DNI project in the month of August. But again, that would have been students who would have been prepared for that. And quite frankly, those would have been students who would have just had Unit D to do, right? So I'm sure Diane could remember Janelle and Tiffany. Most of us remember Tiffany, I guess. And then I have some transfer students, some chess, right? As I would sign out now, what I'll tell you is that as I have 10 persons here, I know the last time I announced this, we didn't have 10 persons on. But I think last week or the other week, I made mention that we are enrolled for the new diploma semester, which should be in the month of October, right? Your exam is scheduled to be the 7th of October. And I should probably stop the recording, I guess, right? So just make it go longer anyway, right? Let's stop